So the theme that I chose for tonight's session is accessing wise mind, which is very closely related to quality of finding authenticity that can come with meditation practice, a sense of dropping into the real me, which actually we discover is not quite a me at all, because we are continually being made up of these different parts, the thoughts, the emotions, the sensations, the changing physical landscape, the changing mental landscape. So we perhaps discover that we're not, quite the single solid self that we might have imagined ourselves to be, or even if we knew this intellectually, that we emotionally kind of attached to. But nevertheless, there does seem to be something that we can connect to, some depth of wisdom, hence the phrase wise mind, which actually comes from DBT, dialectical behavior therapy. The phrase was coined, I believe, by Marshall Linehan, who developed that therapy, which is a mindfulness-based therapy, and refers to this quality of trusting our kind of inner knowing, trusting the cues that come from primarily our bodies. I guess it might kind of in the past have been called intuition, kind of perhaps gone out of fashion a bit, intuition, unfortunately. Gut feel. I had a sense, kind of a feeling that tells us something about the truth of what's going on, or at least gives us some indications of what's going on. Many of us have been trained to override it. A few of us, if we're lucky, have been trained to at least hear it. It's not to say that it's infallible, kind of the body does have its biases, but there's information here to be listened to, and very often we can discover that actually, this kind of deep knowing, because it does come. I mean, it's not woo woo. It comes. There's a kind of clear sort of science to this, in the sense that our bodies have evolved from generation after generation of beings in which this quality of physical knowing has been honed. The ones who our ancestors who didn't have it probably didn't last as long. So the sense of the body is this prime place of signaling to us of what's going on and how we might skillfully relate to it. Is very much rooted in our ancestry. And of course animals have it too. Animals often don't, depending on kind of phase of evolution, I guess. Most animals have a much smaller prefrontal cortex relative to the size of body, but they do have the sense of the gut feel. You can see it in your dog or your cat if you have one, or in a horse. How horses can get spooked, and sometimes it's not clear to the rider what they're spooked by, but it's by something. And sometimes you discover later what it was that was spooking them, or indeed that there's a sense of trust that comes when they're in the presence of a certain person or people. So and Rainer Maria Rilke wrote a poem, which I don't have to hand right now, but it talks about how, as human beings, we have this tendency to go beyond our nature, kind of go beyond, to push beyond, I think is the phrase that he used, to push beyond And you know, he says, if only we could kind of connect with this, we could rise up rooted like trees. That sense of actually our rising up, our flourishing in the world comes from the ground of the earth, and our own earth, our own kind of body earth. And it's only when we sort of get caught in trying to control and actually using you know, the abstract mode of relating, you know, thinking, cognitive qualities, great though they are, when we kind of use them to such a degree that we deny what's going on in our bodies, then that's when, you know, problems can mount. I'm guessing you had, you know, most people have had this both the experience of a gut feel. Yeah, just raise your hands if you know what I'm talking about here. The gut feel that, you know, maybe, and keep your hand raised if you have also had the experience of not listening to it because of thinking. Yeah, I'm not going to ask you how that went, but, you know, I have a gut feel about it. So, so authenticity, I would suggest, is getting back in touch with this, not denying thoughts, but not denying any part of us. So actually coming to listen to the whole of us. And this actually requires us, and this is sometimes a bit of a forbidden word in mindfulness training, but I'm going to use it anyway. It requires us to relax. Because in order to tune into the body, you know, a bit like what are they called? Tuning fork. You know, it's kind of like, in order to kind of hear the tuning fork, if you kind of hold it like this, it won't, it just makes a sort of tinny sound. It has to be kind of held like this in order to ding. Tuning in requires us to relax. And the reason that it's a bit of a kind of a risky word in mindfulness training is that, of course, if you tell people to relax, they try to relax. And actually that just produces more tension. So this is a relaxation that doesn't require you to feel relaxed. It's a relaxing. This can happen when we practice meditation. So in some sense, we're kind of relearning to relax when we come into a meditation practice, to drop. You know, you'll hear me and other mindfulness teachers using phrases that kind of induce this sense of, you know, dropping, falling into, you know, falling awake, letting go, allowing, which invite a sense of this relaxing into ourselves. Now, there is also a quality of cultivation, of effort. So the balance of effort, letting go, is always there. But in our physical posture, the effort is in holding ourselves upright and being willing to be present. And then from this place, we allow whatever's happening to happen. And it seems to be that if we can, the more we can drop into this, the more we can tune into the whole of who we are, and the more we can tune into the whole of who we are, the more we can make good decisions. The more we make good decisions, the better things tend to go, and the better things tend to go, the more relaxed we feel. So there's a kind of a virtuous cycle that can unfold if we let it. That being the kind of key phrase, letting it happen, which takes a certain kind of trust, because of course all of our usual strategies are about control or evasion, and that, you know, that's true in particular situations. So, you know, when there is a mortal threat to ourselves, when we're at risk of death, you know, from some kind of threat, then sure, relaxation is not what we need at that point. But that, you know, because that's been so successful as a survival mechanism, it can easily get applied to all sorts of situations where actually it's not the optimum response.